This conference will now be recorded.
The people are joining in, so let's wait for 2 minutes, then we'll start with the class. All right, meanwhile, any questions from the last class or the examples that I have given in the class notes?
We haven't got that class notes examples.
Okay. And any questions from the last class? Whatever we have learned in the last class.
Not yet.
What about others?
No questions from my side.
No, sir. No, sir.
Uh, Devrita, I have one request. Whenever you give any examples, no, so please try to give it through AdventureWorks so that while we try, like especially when I try offline after the class, so it becomes a bit confusing for me. So I have to create another tables for the examples that you have given. Like most of the examples from AdventureWorks only, but try to give as much examples from AdventureWorks itself so that it will be easier for me to do practice.
So when you
Yes.
get an example from other database or let's say for other tables, so what you have to do is you have to create a table. You have to insert some records. So so when you do that, you have some hands-on, right? So the reason I didn't give you guys the database which I have is you guys need to create your own database apart from AdventureWorks. So prepare a database and construct some tables. Okay. So follow the class notes and create a database with some tables like customers, employees, whatever example I have given. Okay. And populate some records. If you do that, if you do that practice, then it will help you in many different ways. So that's the reason that I have given some of the examples where you guys actually have to create some tables and populate some data. So please do that.
So there was
Don't,
a Saurabh here.
yeah, yeah, tell me.
Actually, even I agree with that because what happens is, see, your data, we do not know what is there in your own database, right? And when you show the example in apart from AdventureWorks, our database won't be having that, and we won't be able to compare the answers as well. So
Mhm.
the speed in which you go, right, like in which you teach, it is like it has to be instant, or else we will miss out. So in that time, we won't be able to create the table. That was the difficulty when I am facing.
Yeah, same here.
So, so when you are practicing a command, let me
Hmm.
share my screen and show you the process.
Hmm.
say for example, like let's say you have this query in your class notes, okay,
Hmm.
and you don't have HR.candidates table.
Yes.
So what you have to do is, so first of all, when I teach you guys that this particular query does a particular thing, right? So you guys need to understand that this query serves what. So this query performs a filtration where it will show the results where the ID belongs to these three columns. So from this you get an idea. You need to create a table. The table name should be HR.candidates.
Yes,
And
Devabhrata, but see now the
the,
time you are taking to create the table, you won't stop
mm,
for us, right, while teaching. So that is
no,
the
the
issue we
idea
get stuck.
the idea is sort of the idea is focus on the learning during the class and
Okay.
doing this practice what I'm showing you right now, doing this practice after the class. So the idea is not doing the practice in parallel with the class, because if you focus on writing codes you won't be focusing on whatever I'm telling. Okay, so the idea is don't do parallel work by writing the codes when I'm teaching. Okay, because I'm providing all
Okay.
the class notes. You guys need to focus on the lecture I'm giving. Okay, I'll be providing the
Mhm.
class notes,
Mhm.
and in the back end you need to prepare the database, you need to prepare the table, you need to prepare the data. Why you need to do all this hustle? The reason is, if you are doing the reverse engineering, the idea will be more clearer. Okay, if you get the ready-made data, you are seeing the only one side of the scenario. If you are doing the reverse engineering, if you are preparing the table, preparing the data, and then applying the query and getting the desired output, that will make you more confident, and the both point of view would be there, from query to data and the data to query. So both perspective would be there. So what you guys need to do, if you get a class note like this, so when you are there in the class, you know that this query will give you all the row details where ID belongs to this three record, right? So you don't
Mhm.
have a table like this, you need to create a table. So this table will be holding what? One column you are sure of that this table should be holding ID, because we are using ID column in the query itself. So it should be having ID. You can have another name. So as it's candidate, you can have some other columns as well. Let's say age or something, right? And then you need to populate some information. The information should belongs to ID 123, because we are doing the query 123. So 123 should be there, as well as we should be having some more IDs just to make sure this query is working fine or not. So we should be having 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. All right. So this is our data population. We can give our name as per our own convenience. So once this is done, you have this table readily available. And when you are running the query on top of it, so you are getting an idea that how the data is actually impacting the query, right? And how the data is actually linked with the logic. So you are getting both sides of the scenario. And one more advantage you will guys will be getting is, you'll be practicing the table creation, you'll be practicing the insert query. So they'll be hands-on writing the codes. If I give you the class notes only, if you are just simply copying the class notes and executing, that won't be helping you guys. Okay. So you guys need to write down the query. You need to write down the query. You guys need to face a lot of errors. then only
Yes.
that would be more easier for you guys. Okay. I can simply run the same query on AdventureWorks database on a simple table. That is not my point here. Okay. The point I'm trying to make here is I can simply write down a query using connecting to AdventureWorks. Instead of candidates, I can write people.person.person, where business entity ID is 123. As simple as that. But that make my life easier, not yours. Okay. So do the opposite way. That's my recommendation. All right. So any more questions from the last class? I mean, guys, I don't want to just avoid your suggestion. I just put my point of view, okay, which I find useful for you guys.
Yeah, Devrita, I understood. Thank you.
So any questions from the last class? No questions. All right. So I hope previously we have discussed about constraints.
Sir, class note has not been shared by Sanchita.
I'll ask her. I'll ask her to share. Okay.
Thanks.
So we have learned about constraints, right? What is constraint? Constraint means restriction. Okay. I have some constraints. That means I have some restrictions, or I have some limitations, or I have some conditions. So that is the meaning of constraint, right? So when we say constraint on a table, that means putting some restrictions on the table. We can create constraints on a particular column in a table. So constraints, constraint, okay. Constraint can be of different type. Unique constraint, primary key constraint, foreign key constraint. Okay. What is unique constraint? So unique constraint means if we create a unique constraint on a table, that means so the unique constraint will be created on a column of a table. Okay.
Debabrata, sorry to interrupt, but your screen is freezed, I think.
Okay. Is it for everyone?
No, 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 no.
The screen is working properly.
Oh,
Anyway, let
my
me
bad.
reshare. No issues. Is it fine now?
Yeah, fine now, fine.
So one is unique constraint. So what is unique constraint? The constraint would be created. So the constraint would be created on a column of a table. Okay. Now we have different constraints like unique constraint, primary key constraint, foreign key constraint, etc. Unique key. All right. So when we say that a column would be having unique key, right? Unique constraint. The meaning is when we are putting this constraint on a column, the column cannot have any duplicate value. So we are imposing a limitation or restriction on a column, and the restriction is the column cannot have any duplicate value. Okay. Next constraint is primary key. If a column is defined as a primary key, then what is the restriction? The column cannot have any duplicate key or null value, right? And when we say foreign key on a column, the column value must satisfy the master table values. Okay, so the child column value must satisfy the master table values. Okay,
Yes.
so we have three type of constraints. So let's learn about unique key constraint now. How to create a unique key? First, create a table. Let's say I'm creating a table. Create table test underscore unique. Say ID column unique. Right, let's do one thing. Let's create the column first. Create the table first. ID name age. That's it. Table created. Now alter table. I want to add the unique key constraint. With check add constraint table name, then column name. Just a moment, guys. Huh? Okay. So this is the command. So alter table, table name with check, add constraint. This is my constraint name, unique. Then the column I want to create as unique. So let's run. Created. Let refresh the column. Refresh the keys. All right. So just a moment. This one I need to remove. Constraints. It's taking too time to complete. Anyway, our table is ready. Let's do the checks. Let it happen in the background. So let's see the table. Select star from test unique key. So this is blank. Let's insert record into table. Insert into test unique key. Values. Name is, let's say, pages 20. Inserted. Next, I want to insert 2. 2 inserted. Now let's say I want to insert the same number again. Yeah. I got a error. Violation of unique key constraint. This cannot insert duplicate key in this. The duplicate key value is 2. So as you can observe, this table doesn't have any primary key. Okay. So this table is having 3 columns without any primary key, but we have a unique key constraint. So unique key constraint means we have a limitation for that particular row, or we have some restrictions for that particular row. Now let's try to insert null.
It will
What is that?
execute.
So you can see we can insert null for unique key constraint, but we cannot insert duplicate values. So let's try to insert one more null. Again,
No, it will not execute.
violation. The duplicate key is null. So the only difference between a unique key and a primary key is the column cannot have duplicate value, but it will allow null. It allows null values. Whereas in primary key, the column cannot have duplicate value, or not or actually, it does not allow null values. Okay, so that's the difference. So it's a question for your interview as well. So what's the difference between unique key and primary key? So a unique key allow you to insert null values, or in other words, we can create unique key on a column where the column type is null. Okay, but we cannot create primary key on a column which is null in nature. Now let's do the same thing. Let's try to create primary key on this particular column. Alter table this with check add constraint. Let's say pk primary key. Let's try to create the column as primary key. Cannot define primary key constraint on a nullable column. So this column is a nullable column, right? So that is why we cannot create primary key on this column. So is it clear to everyone?
Could you repeat the last one, the null thing?
So what is unique key? Unique key constraint, if we create unique key constraint on a column, the column cannot have any duplicate value. Okay, but it allows null value. So as you see that we have inserted null value. In other words, we can create unique key constraint on a null type column. Okay. On the other hand, for primary key, we can create primary key only on not null type columns. We cannot create primary key on null type column. And the limitation is same. It cannot have duplicate value for primary key. At the same time, it will not allow null values. Okay. So the only difference between unique key and primary key is unique key allow null values, primary key doesn't allow null values. That's the only difference. And in terms of table structure, the difference is unique key can be created on nullable columns, whereas primary key can be created only on not null columns. Is it clear to everyone?
Yeah, clear.
Yes.
Will you please repeat the
Can
last slide?
Yeah, which one?
That does not allow the null value.
So let me show you in practical. So we have created alter table name with check add constraint. So we are adding a constraint on column ID. This is the constraint name. You can see this is the constraint name, right? So we have created this constraint and the constraint is unique constraint, right? On id column. So we have created a unique constraint on id column, and the id column type is null, right? Now if we try to do the same thing for primary key, we will be getting an error that we cannot create a primary key on a column which is null in nature. So the meaning is unique constraint can be created on null type column, but primary key cannot be created on null type column. Okay, that is difference number one. And difference number two is for unique key constraint, we can insert null values for unique column, but for primary key, we cannot insert null values. Why? Because primary key doesn't support null type column. You can only create primary key on not null type columns. Is it clear now?
Sir, null type column means the initial value will be 0, right? Or null, nothing will be there, right?
No, you can insert null values.
No,
So if you see the table, we have null value in ID column, right?
Okay.
But this is not supported for primary key. This is supported for unique constraint, but this is not supported in primary key.
Okay. The initial, while creating ID int null means the like null value is supported, right? The initial null we give.
Sorry, I didn't get that.
While creating the table ID int null, that null refers to like there will be null character, right?
Yes.
never. And can we create a unique key constant on multiple column?
Yes, we can. We can create a unique key on any number of columns. So let me show you that also. So I want to create a unique key on name column,
Name.
right? Now let's try to insert a column, insert a row where we have a duplicate name, year 26. That's it. Violation of unique key for the value here. Okay. Any
Okay.
questions on unique key?
Mm, no.
So I guess you guys already know about primary key, right? So primary key we have created multiple times. So let's move
Yes.
on
What
to foreign
unique?
key. Yeah, primary key is unique and not null in nature. So foreign key is basically create relation between
With
tables.
primary key and tables.
The child column value must satisfy the master table value. Three things. Right. So let's understand about foreign key relations. So what is RDBMS?
Relational Database Management System.
That means where we have tables, those tables are having relations with each other. That is why it is called as relational database management system, right? So this is logical in nature. So when we learned about relation, we say the relation in logical terms. Now how to implement that relation in the database level, right? So first understand that what is the need to create the relation or establish the relation or implement the relation. Okay, so let's say I have a table called customer. The table is having customer ID, customer name, customer age, customer mobile. We have another table. So let's consider a scenario of Zomato. Zomato example. So in Zomato application, they have a customer base who actually registered in the application, right? So if you want to use Zomato, first of all, you need to register in the Zomato application, right? So when you are registering in Zomato application, you are giving some of your details like your name, your age, your mobile number, email address, etc. So those informations are getting saved in this customer table. All right. Now, when you are placing an order from Zomato, so it's going to a order table, right? So this order table is having what? Order table is having order ID. Order table is having which item you have ordered, what is the amount to be paid, any additional notes or recommendations you want to give for the order, and you need to have one more column which is very important is customer ID. That means which customer actually placed this order. So is this two table structure clear to everyone? This is my customer base
Yeah. Yes,
and
clear.
this is my order table. So is it possible that we have a order details, we have a order where the customer ID doesn't belong to the customer table?
No, it's not possible.
Is not possible. So let's say the customer table is having one Rahul 20, mobile number 12345. We have another customer 2, uh, Neha 22 9875 765. We have another customer 3, Priya, age 24, mobile number 34567. Okay, so this is my customer base. So when someone placed the order ID is 1. Let's say the order ID is 100. Okay, what is the item? Let's say the item is idli. What is the amount? Let's say 100. What is the notes? Uh, no chutney. Okay? No chutney needed. And what is the customer ID or who actually placed this order? So if I place 4 here, is it a valid record or is this row a valid one?
No,
Yeah.
because it was not mentioned in the customer table.
So when, let's say you have inserted 4 here. Okay, so when you are actually preparing the report, which report you are going to prepare, you are going to join this to table, right? Why you need to join this to table? Because the delivery boy needs to know the order ID, the item number, the amount he needs to take, any notes, as well as he needs to know the customer name and the customer mobile number in order to deliver this particular parcel to the customer, right? So you need to combine both the tables. You have a value here where the respective name and mobile number doesn't exist in the customer table. That means this is a inconsistent data, right? So we can validate it because we can see the data and the data is very small, right? We have only 3 rows here. We can validate it by our own logic, but how to implement the same logic in database table so that if we are trying to insert 4 here, which doesn't belong to this table, this will not allow to insert 4. Is it clear? So whenever we are trying to insert a value here in the customer ID, it will first validate that this customer ID is actually belonging to the customer table or not. If it's not belonging to the customer table, it will not allow you to insert this record. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
So
clear.
in this way, we are implementing a relation between this column to this column, right? So this relation between this tables, this column, and this tables, this column is getting established using a constraint, and the constraint is called as foreign key. All right. Is the idea
Yes.
clear about foreign key?
Yes, clear.
So how to create the relation? Let me create a table first. Create table, customer details, customer ID, name, age, mobile. Okay. Customer ID is primary key. Let's create the table. Now I have another table, order details, order ID, item, amount, notes, and customer ID. So I've created both the table. Okay. Now I don't have any relation between the table. If I try to insert, I want to insert a value here, and let's generate the same condition. Let's try to insert a record into customer table, or let's try to insert a record in order table. Okay, insert into orders. Sorry, order detail values 100, Italy, uh, item is 120, price is 120, uh, and then customer ID is, let's say, 1. But let me first show you the table. So my both the tables are blank, right? Now I am trying to insert a record into order details table where customer ID is 1. So here I am trying to insert customer ID 1 where this table is blank, right? So ideally this row should be added or not added. this row, it should be added or it should prevent us to add?
It's prevent
It should prevent actually.
So it should prevent us to add, but it allowed us to add the record. Now let's see the table. So you can see the order ID has placed, the order details has placed, but I don't have any respective customer. So if I try to find the customer name, customer age, customer mobile number, I won't be able to get it. So this is the incorrect data. But no one prevented us, or no one maintained the relation between the table to prevent this insertion of incorrect data, right? So the relation between the table is not established, right?
yes, yes.
So let's establish the relation between the table now. So let me first delete the record. All right. Now establish the relation between the table. How to establish the relation between the table? The same way we added unique constraint, we are now adding foreign key constraint. Alter table order details. Why? First question is why? Why we are creating the foreign key on order details table, not on customer details table? The reason is this column. So when I create a relation between these two tables, this table is self-sufficient. This table doesn't need any reference to any other table. Yes or no? Does
Yes.
the customer table
Yes,
needs
sir.
any reference to any other table?
No.
Oh,
So the table which needs a reference is order table. So in order table, customer ID actually needs a reference to customer table's customer ID, right? So the reference needs to be implemented in orders table. That is why we are creating the foreign key on order details table. Okay. So alter table order details with check add constraint. This is my constraint name. Okay. The constraint name structure is, this is the constraint name structure. Foreign key, source table, target table, column name. So foreign key, order details is my source table, customer details is my target table, customer ID is my column name. So I'm adding a constraint. This is my constraint name, and the constraint type is foreign key. I'm creating the foreign key constraint on customer ID column of this table. So this two line is explaining about order details table, right? Now this tables, this ID is going to refer references, right? So this tables, this ID is going to refer customer details tables, customer ID column. Okay. So this tables, this column is going to refer customer details tables, customer ID column. Is this syntax clear to everyone? Is this clear, guys? The syntax?
Yes, sir.
All right.
so could you repeat
So
the
let's,
reference part again?
yeah.
Reference part.
Yes,
I
yes.
didn't.
So I have created the foreign key constraint on customer ID column of order details table. So on order details tables, customer ID column, I'm creating the foreign key. So this foreign key is going to refer which table? This table, this column, right?
Yeah.
Yes or no? So that is why
Yes.
we are writing references, customer details, customer ID column. Okay.
Okay.
So let's create the foreign key. Foreign key created. Now we have no records. Now let's try to insert into customer details values. Say one, customer name is Rahul, age is 20, mobile number is 12345. Right. Now let's insert the record into customer details table. Now in customer details table, I have a record 1. So now can I insert this record in order details table?
No.
Yes.
Now you can insert.
Yes, yes, you can insert.
Yes.
Because 1 is going to refer
Is there.
this, right? So I can insert. So let's see. So this record is a valid record now. Now let's try to insert one more order details. Let's say order ID 101, Rosa,
Customer.
150. Let's say not applicable. Customer ID is 2. So will it allow to insert this record, or is it a
No,
valid insert operation?
No.
No.
No. Let's see. I mean, logically, it is not a valid insert operation, but let's see if the foreign key prevents it or not. So the insert statement conflicted with the foreign key constraint. Okay. The conflict occur for the database this on table customer details customer ID column. The meaning is this customer ID, when this customer ID is referred with customer details tables customer ID, then it found that we are trying to insert 2 here. It found in customer table the customer ID 2 doesn't even exist. So let's do one thing. Let's insert a second customer ID 2, and then try to insert the order details. Rahul Neha, age 22, phone number 67890. Let's see the tables now. All right. So in current situation, is it a valid insert operation?
yes,
So will it allow to insert this data?
yes, it will allow.
Yes.
Record got
So
inserted
who is there?
because when it's referring this value with customer ID column, it can get the value, right? So that is why it's allowing the insert operation in the child table. So this is how we can implement the relation between a master table and a child table. Is this clear to everyone about foreign key relation?
Yes, clear.
Anyone having any questions, please let me know. Any questions from anyone? Guys,
No, sir.
all right. Let's go through the definition. Foreign key create relation between tables. The child column value must satisfy the master table values. So is this definition now clear to everyone?
Yes, clear.
Now I want you guys to prepare a table structure, okay, and create both the tables and create relation between the tables, and make sure that when you are inserting the values in both the tables, the foreign key is getting validated. So you guys can take any example. For me, I have taken a Zomato example, right? This was my example, Zomato example. You guys can take any example and do the practice. Or if we have time in the session, we can go through some of the examples. All right. So let's now understand about group by clause. So let's see
Mm.
the employee table first.
Excuse me. Say
Yeah.
this side. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think you haven't tell that if you want to drop the data from that child table, we cannot
Mhm.
drop it before. If we want to drop the drop the data from parent table, it will not
Mm.
drop because we
It will
have
not
to
allow.
drop. It will not
Yes.
allow first, but we have to
So
first
correctly
take that.
pointed out. Yeah. Let me
Okay.
do that as well. Let me do that as well. Huh? Sorry, I missed it.
Okay.
Mm,
Okay.
test. So in this table, in this database, we have select star from. Okay. So we have these details. Now, if we try to delete this record, customer ID 2, so will it allow to delete this record? So will it allow to delete this record?
No, it will not allow.
I think it should not.
Because whenever we are trying to delete this record, it will check this and it will prevent us to delete, perform the delete operation, because a child table is referring this particular row, right? So if we want to delete this record, first we need to make sure there are no order table records where customer ID is 2. So we need to first delete from order details table where customer ID is equals to 2. Now if you see, there is no order having customer ID 2. Now we are okay to delete the customer details table where customer ID is 2. Now both the table data is consistent. So both ways it will prevent the data to delete or to insert. if it's making the data inconsistent, or if it's it's breaking the relation between the tables. So whoever, what is your name?
Sayed.
So sir, thank you for, it was very important to explain. Thanks for reminding me. So is it clear about the delete operation?
Yes, sir.
And one thing more that when I was going through with SQL, so there is a five key that is composite key also and someone more key. That was maybe alternate key. But you
Alternate
told
key?
that you told that right now that primary key, foreign key, and unique key. But there is also a two key, na composite key and alternate key.
No, no. Alternate key, there
No.
is nothing called alternate key, but we have composite key. Composite key is not, there is nothing specific called composite key. Composite key is nothing but when we create a key with multiple columns. So when we learned about super key or like this, right? So composite key is nothing but we have created primary key on one particular column. So if we create primary key on customer ID as well as name, then this will become a composite key because we
Mm,
are creating key on multiple columns, not on a single column. Then it will be called as composite key.
yeah, in
Sir, our
which
table can
the
have
combination of more than one field or column of a given table. It may be candidate key or primary key.
Yes. So that would be called as composite key. So
sir,
that,
a table can have more than one primary key.
no, the table
No.
can have only one primary key, but composite key is a different thing. Composite key means, let me show you this. Mm, Let's say we have created the unique key only on name column. Instead of name column, if we create the key on name, ID and name, okay? So we are not creating the constraint on any particular column. We are creating the constraint on a combination of columns. Then this type of constraint is called as composite key. So when you create key on multiple column, then it is called as composite key. The idea remains the same. A primary
Okay.
key could be composite, a unique key could be composite, right? So creating primary key on a single column will be primary key. Creating primary key on multiple column will be composite primary key. Same goes for unique key as
Yeah, I have sent you in some thing in chat about composite key. Same as you that you have told right now.
well. So is it clear, everyone, about composite key?
Yes, sir.
All right. So now let's move on and learn about group by clause. So we have a table. The table name is employee. So let's say the requirement is to um, see the average salary based on each gender. Okay, so based on gender, you want to find the average salary. So if this is your requirement, let me set the requirement first. Find the average salary of every gender. Okay, so first of all, we need to divide our data set depending on gender, right? Because I want to see the average salary of every gender, right? So first we need to group our data based on gender. Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
So group by clause, group the data into parts. Okay, so as you can see, we have given group by gender. That means we are grouping our data based on gender value. Okay, so whenever we are grouping our data based on a particular column, we are getting different set or different subset of data. So this aggregate function, average of salary, will not be applicable on the entire data. Rather, it will be applicable on the subset of data. Subset of data means we will be having two sets of data based on gender. One set is male, other set is female, right? So from the male set, it will find average salary, and from the female set, it will find the average salary. So if I run both the query, so this is the output. So select gender average salary as total salary from employee table group by gender. So you can see female average salary is this. So let's see, female 5500, female 400000, 5000, 5 and 7 12, 12 and 4 16, 16 and 5 500 would be um, 21500. So we have total female of 1 2 3 4. So we need to divide with 4, and that should give us this value 5375. So let's see, it's giving the average value correctly or not. Yes, 5375, right? So let's see about the male calculation. 4900, 5, then 4500, 9500, 3500, 13, then 6, 19, then 5500, 24500 divided by 5. That should give us this output. So this is the output. So it has performed the calculation correctly. So whenever we perform a group by, first it will divide or group the data into multiple sets based on the group by column value. So this column value is having two distinct values. That is why it's dividing or grouping the data into two. And after that, it will perform this aggregate function. So you need to understand two things. Whenever we are using group by, we should write this syntax: group by gender or group by a column name. Then we must perform an aggregate function on that subset of data. Okay, so group by function or group by can be used along with aggregate function only. Okay,
Yes.
all right. So let's see the next example. Let's say I want to see the number of employees from different country. So what should be the query? Let me set the query question first. Total employees of different countries. What would be the query? Select, let's say, country. Then I want to count the ID, number of employee from employee table. Group by what?
Country.
Group by country. If we run the command, India 4 number of employees, UK 2 number of employees, USA 3 number of employees. Let's see. So India 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. UK 2, 1, 2. USA 3, 1, 2, 3. So is it clear about this group by query?
Yes, clear.
Now if someone asks me, sir, I don't have the data set with me. So when you have the query with you, you need to understand that what are the columns and what are the data we are dealing with. We are dealing with a table called employee, where we have gender, we have salary. In the next query, we are dealing with country, right? So it should be having, the employee table should be having ID, name, gender, salary, country, right? And you guys need to insert different values based on gender, country, etc. So you need to populate your table data accordingly. All right. Let's say now I want to see the total salary based on a particular gender, average salary based on a particular gender, and total number of employees based on a particular gender. Then we need to write this. So female is getting total salary of this. They are getting average salary of this. Total number of employees this. For male, total salary is this. Average salary is this. Total number of employees this. So how we are achieving it? First, we are grouping our data based on gender. Then we are selecting gender. Then I want to see total salary. So sum of salary. I want to see average salary, average of salary. I want to see total number of employees based on the gender. So count of ID. So the requirement is total salary, average salary, and number of employees based on gender. Is this query clear to everyone?
That's clear.
Anyone having any questions, please let me know. Any questions, guys? So let's take an example, or let me give you an example. Let me ask for a query. Select star from. So this is my person table, right? Now, let's say the question is, please find total number of persons. Please find total number of persons of each person type. Is it clear to everyone? Is this question clear to everyone?
Yes, sir.
All right.
Yes.
So I'll give you guys 5 minutes to write down the query. Please write down the query and I'll be back in 5 minutes. Please paste the query in the chat. Okay, what is the status? I can see Raju has pasted one query. Aryan also pasted one query. Both of them has pasted the same query. Let's go with Raju's query. Right. So in this query, Raju, you have uh, done little, small mistake. Person type, person dot person, then person type is valid. Count of business entity ID. All persons based on person type. So if I execute this query, it will give me all different type of persons and the count of that particular type of persons. Okay, so how to write this query? First of all, select from which table
From
person
person
or
dot
person, and I want to group this person table based on which column,
person type.
because the requirement is of each person type, right? So I want to divide it by person type. So group by person type. Now what are the things I want to see? I want to see the count based on each person type. So I need to show person and count of the person type. So to get the count, we know the aggregate function is count.
Count.
And then
Right.
we need to give a primary key. So primary key is business entity ID. And we are giving the column header as total count. Total count of person type. Person type. Right. Let's execute the query. So is this clear to everyone, or anyone is having any questions?
Yes, clear.
What about others?
Sir, could
Yes.
you repeat once again?
Yeah. So this is my person table. Okay. And from this person table, I want to see the count of person based on person type column. Okay. So the meaning is I want to see the different type, what are the count of different type of persons. Okay. So we have different type of persons. If you see, we have EM and other type of persons as well, right? So I want to see what are the count of different persons, different type of persons. So first we need to perform select from table name, and I want to group by person type because I want to see different person types count, right? So I need to group the data based on person type. So I have grouped the data based on person type by writing this command group by person type. Then I have selected person type, and as I want to see the count of person type, I have written count of business entity ID, and I have labeled that column as total count of person type. So if I run this query, this will give me the person type as well as the count of it. Okay, so this is one example from AdventureWorks. All right. So last topic. This is trigger.
I have a question
Yeah.
on group. Uh, so, please show us that table person dot person, sir.
Hmm. Yes.
Right. And here, if you want to group by person type and title,
Person type and title. Yes.
yeah, and so we have to select person type title and count business identity ID as a total count of person. And please, can you run this? Actually, I want to see something.
That will take the unique combination of person type and title. So that will take the unique combination of person type C, EM, MS, EM null. Okay. So EM Mr. So for every person type and every title, they will take each combination and they will divide or group the values accordingly.
Okay. I was practice through internet. So if you don't mind, can I share my screen? I have some query. Uh, mm, Actually, I need to understand some language that was written there.
Okay, do one thing. Let's park your question for now. Let me complete the current topic, then we can discuss at the end of the course.
Okay.
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 All right. So let's now learn about trigger. So what is a trigger? So a trigger is a special type of stored procedure which execute after a condition, and the condition is insert, update, or delete. Okay. Now, so we know what is stored procedure, right? Stored procedure is a database object which store the programming. So trigger is a special type of stored procedure because we need to execute stored procedure externally. So a stored procedure will not execute automatically. We need to run exec space procedure name, then only the stored procedure will execute. But trigger is a special type of stored procedure that will execute automatically, or in other words, that will trigger automatically based on certain conditions. The conditions are insert operation, update operation, and delete operation. So insert operation, update operation, and delete operation happens on what? On which database object? In table type database object, right? So the trigger, we create trigger on table objects. Okay. So we create trigger on a table, and once there is insert operation on that table, the insert trigger will execute automatically. So we have total three type of triggers: insert trigger, update trigger, and delete trigger. So insert trigger will execute automatically after a insert operation on the table. Okay. Update trigger will execute automatically after a update operation on the table, and delete operation or delete trigger will execute automatically after a delete operation on the table. That means we are going to create trigger on table, right? So let's see. Let's create the table first. So this is my table. Table name is employee log, log ID, identity column, employee ID, operation, update date, old value, new value. This is the table. Let's create it. Okay. So table got created. Employee log. Okay. So under trigger folder, we don't have anything. So let's create insert trigger first. Insert trigger. So the syntax is create trigger, trigger name on the table name on which we are creating the trigger. So the trigger we are creating on customer details table. Do we have customer details table? Yes, we have customer details table, right? So create trigger, trigger name on table name, okay, for insert operation. So for insert operation on this table, this trigger will execute automatically. So is this 3 line clear to everyone? Create trigger, trigger name on table name for insert operation. The meaning is this trigger is going to be created on this table, which going to be automatically executed on insert operation on this table. Is this clear? The only difference of a trigger and a procedure is only this first 3 lines. That's it. Please let me know if it's clear.
So what is the syntax of trigger? Create trigger. Could you explain
Create,
syntax?
create trigger, trigger name on table name for insert. As we are creating an insert trigger, so that is why we are writing for insert. Okay. So what is the meaning of this? The meaning is the first line is clear, right? This is the trigger name. So the trigger is going to be created on this table, and this trigger will execute automatically for a insert operation on this table. This is the meaning of the first 3 line, and the rest is exactly same as a stored procedure. So the first 3 line is clear. All right. So let's do one thing. Let me drop the table. Mm, say I'll write operations, date, Okay, so insert option. So this is my trigger. So in this trigger, what I have done, I have performed insert operation on employee log table, and I have written this insert operation happened on this particular time. Okay, so let me create the trigger. Created. Now if I see the customer details table, because the trigger got created on customer details table, right? So a trigger got created. So trigger name is trigger customer details insert, right? So if there is an insert operation, let me select the table first. Select star from customer. So now we have only one record. Now if we insert a record, now let me also show you guys the employee log table. Select star from employee log. So why I'm showing you this table? Because within the trigger, we are performing an insert operation on employee log table. Currently, you can see the employee log table is blank. Okay. So customer table is having one record, employee log table is blank. So let me perform an insert operation into customer details table. So values are, let's say customer ID 2, name is Neha, age is 22, mobile number is 123. Okay. This is the value. So I am inserting into customer details table. Okay. And what is the trigger? The trigger will execute automatically for a insert operation on customer details table. And what will happen if the trigger got executed? It will perform an insert operation on employee log table. Okay. Now we are not doing anything. We are simply performing an insert operation on the table. Okay. Let's see. So we have performed only one insert operation and it's showing one row affected twice. Why? So customer details table got this row inserted. But in the background, we have one insert operation as well that happened on employee log. Because as soon as the insert operation happened on customer details table, this insert trigger got triggered automatically. And it inserted one record into employee log table, right? So is it clear about insert trigger?
Yes, sir.
Um, all right. So let's create an update trigger. So the trigger name would be trigger customer details. Instead of insert, I'm giving a name update. Send on this table for update operation. For update. Okay. So let's say it will perform the insert operation. It will write update. Let's create the trigger. Let's refresh the trigger folder. So the update trigger got created. Now what we have to do, this is my table. Let's say I want to update the phone number of Neha from 1232 to something else. So update customer details, get mobile 56789, where customer ID is equals to 2, right? So this is my update operation. 2 rows affected, 1 row affected twice, because as soon as this update operation triggers on this customer details table, this update operation on customer details table triggered this trigger, which in the background performed a insert operation on employee log table. So let's see the customer details table first. So the phone number got updated. Now let's see employee log table. See a update operation inserted, right? So is it clear about update trigger?
Yes, sir.
Yes, clear.
Now let's see about delete trigger. Instead of update, I'm naming it delete or delete. Inserting delete. Let's create it. Delete trigger created. Let's see both of the table. All right. Now let's perform a delete operation. All right.
Where CID number is to.
So one row affected twice. Let's see the customer details table. The row got
Yes,
deleted. Let's see the employee log table. We got
updated.
one more insert operation for this delete operation. Now, one may ask me, what is the use of it? What
Means
is the benefit? What is the benefit of linking one stored procedure or one piece of code with a insert, update, or delete operation? So, as I mentioned here, mostly used for audit purpose. The meaning is, let's say you have a sensitive database where you have table information, sorry, where you have tables of account information, let's say bank balance. All right. So in this kind of sensitive table, you want to track each and every operation that is happening on the table, right? So if there is an insert operation on this table, you want to track it. So the tracking would be done in a separate log table. And for this case, it's employee log table, right? For any insert, update, delete operation, it should be linked with a trigger and it should be tracked in a separate log table. So trigger mostly used for logging purposes. Okay. So is it clear about trigger?
yes, clear.
All right.
Yes, sir.
So now let's. Someone was asking me something. Who was that?
Yeah, it's me, Sayed.
Sayed. So Sayed, I'm making you presented. You want to show me something? Yeah, please share your screen.
Yeah, it's visible. Yeah.
Yes, it is.
Actually, I was making this
Hmm.
group by clause in below, ठीक है? Like that, I have done or but there select name sum of salary as a salary name from customer. First, we
Hmm.
have to go to this. Let's see. Let's they consider as a flowing customer table which has the record with different name.
Hmm.
Okay.
So
So
group by name and age. What is the meaning of that?
name and age.
Group by name and
Yeah.
age means they are grouping the table based on name and age. So if based on this data, if you are grouping based on name and age, anyway you are going to get unique values only or unique grouping only. So there are
Hmm.
distinct values you are going to get for the combination of name and age. To create an example of group by, you need to make sure you are making group by based on a column which have total two or three type of distinct values, so that you can group the entire data into two or three different groups, right? So if you
Okay.
are making the group such a way that you are the grouping mechanism also giving you the unique data or unique combination for the entire data set, that is not useful for group by clauses. So let me
Okay.
give you some example. Group by clause generally applies on a vast categorization, let's say gender, or
Hmm.
let's say salary, or let's say country, or state, or pin code, right? Let's say you want to see how many, let's say you have a table of employee where you have blood group. Let's say you have 1,000 um, records in person table or employee table, and in the employee table you have a column called blood group. Now you want to see how many different blood group count we have out of this table, right? I want to see
Yes.
total count of different blood groups. So what would be the query? Select blood group,
Blood group
comma,
from the.
count of blood group from employee table, group by blood group, right? So
Okay.
that will give
Right.
you the different blood group count from the table. So why we have selected this example here? Because if we select the column such a way, or if we select an example such a way where we can group the data in chunks, if we group the data such a way that we are getting only one row in every group, then it's not solving our purpose. It should
Hmm.
give us at least some number of rows in every group so that we can perform the aggregate function like sum, average, mean, max, or whatever, right?
Yes. Yes.
So your group by column should be in a such a way that, or the table values should be in such a way that you are getting some records in each group.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah. Right.
All right. Anyone else having any questions from today's class? Let me put the class notes to Sanchita. Meanwhile, guys, so in the next class, we are going to work on a real life project. Okay. So we are going to start with a problem statement, and we are going to perform the entire solution from designing to implementing and populating the data, giving the features, everything, right? So we are going to perform step 1 to the last step. So giving the problem statement to the solution. So it is very important that you guys have knowledge about every topic we have learned till now. Okay. So anyone is having any questions before I wrap up? I can see
Yes, there.
Shreya's raised his hand.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Actually, while you was explaining the trigger, my network went bad. So will you please summarize the triggers that you were discussing about?
Yes, sure. Triggers. Triggers. Let me share my screen. So trigger is what? Trigger is a special type of stored procedure that executes depending on a condition of a table. So the conditions are insert operation on a table, update operation on a table, and delete operation on a table. Okay. So based on this different types, we have total 3 type of triggers: insert trigger, update trigger, and delete trigger. So insert trigger will execute automatically after a insert operation on the table. Update trigger will execute automatically after the update operation on the table, and delete trigger will execute automatically after a delete operation on a table. Okay. So let's see how to create a insert trigger. So this is the example of insert trigger. So the syntax is create trigger, trigger name, on which table I want to create the trigger, and for which operation the trigger will execute automatically. So this 3 line is critical. After this 3 line, the rest is basically the same as a stored procedure. Okay. So let's understand this 3 line. That would be sufficient to understand trigger. Create trigger, trigger name is understandable. We are creating a trigger and this is the name of the trigger. On which table I want to create a trigger, because the trigger will execute automatically depending on the operation on a table, right? So a trigger must be linked on a table, or a trigger must be created on a table. So the trigger is getting created on this table, customer details table, and this trigger will execute for a insert operation on this table. So if there is an insert operation on this table, then this trigger will execute automatically. That means this is an insert trigger. So 3 primary things we need to understand: create trigger, trigger name, on which table I am creating this trigger, and for which condition the trigger will execute. So for insert operation on this table, this trigger will execute automatically. So this is the example of insert trigger. And once the trigger got executed, it is basically performing an insert operation on a different table. Okay. So this is the example of insert trigger. So let's see the example of update trigger. Everything is same except we have changed the name. I have added update because it's an update trigger, and for update operation the trigger will execute. So these 3 line, the same thing: create trigger, trigger name, on this table for update operation. So for update operation on this table, this trigger will execute. So previous trigger will execute for insert operation on the table. This trigger will execute for update operation on this table. So let's see the delete trigger. So this is, I changed the name little bit. I've added delete here. Now for delete. For delete operation on this table, this trigger will execute. So that's the three type of triggers we have. I've added the examples in the class note. You can go through the recordings first for the missed part, and you can go through the class notes to get a hands on.
Sure. Sir. Yeah. I want to ask, beside update, there's a get date over here. So, and the two brackets are there. So, what does it mean? Like, why is it over there? Like, what this
GetDate
mean
is a
does?
system function. GetDate is a system
Okay.
function which will give the current date time. So if I write select GetDate,
Mm.
it will give you the current date time. Here it is,
Okay. Okay.
right?
And
Thank you so much.
Devabrata, Saurabh here. Uh, in the trigger option or anything, like, is there a way when, like, how to record when the database is, when the table is copied outside? Because this is like operation based triggers, right? If something is
Mhm.
action based, like added, deleted, updated, then it will work. But what about if
So you
something is,
want to see
if
for
the whole
select
table is
trigger, you
copied?
want to say, right? Select trigger or copy trigger.
Select trigger. Yeah.
No, there is no
Okay.
such trigger called select trigger. We have only three type of triggers: insert, update, and delete.
So where will that be recorded? Like if the table is like select is used in the logbook in the
That you need to tackle using grant and revoke operation. So we learned about security,
acha
right?
acha acha permission.
So that
Okay,
we need
okay,
to
okay.
tackle. Yes, that we need to tackle in the permission level.
Okay, but no other way to know like
No,
when
we
it is
don't
copied.
have any trigger to, tackle or which will execute based on the select operation. So
Okay,
we have
okay.
only three
Got
triggers for insert, update, and delete.
it.
So the focus is more on changing the data rather than
Hmm.
accessing the data. Okay.
Okay, got it.
All right. So everyone, so before we catch up on Monday, my request is to go through all the classes. Okay. And we'll do a live project, industry based project on Monday. Okay. Thanks everyone, and we'll catch up on Monday. Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Good
sir.
night.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you, sir.
Good night, everybody.
Thank you. Good night.